Today I'm sharing super quick reviews of all of the books that I read in July 2024. I ended up finishing 9 books this month, so I have a lot of books to cover and I can't wait to get into it. Just a quick note, I love to share the books that I absolutely adored as well as the ones that I either didn't like or just thought were kind of okay, so you can help find the books that you'll absolutely want to read. In no particular order, let's get into it. First up is The Art of Catching Feelings by Alicia Thompson. I gave this one 3.5 stars. It's a baseball romance, and I probably had higher expectations than what I should have for it. The whole conflict in this romance could have been cleared up really easily just by talking to each other, so I think I was just kind of frustrated that I had to read a whole romance novel for one big conflict. Next up is Breaking the Dark by Lisa Jewell, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. This is the first book in a new installment of mysteries and thrillers that are based on Marvel superheroes. Jessica Jones was the star of this novel, and she was investigating this weird case of twins that came back from an overseas trip acting very strangely, and ends up diving into what actually happened to them over there. The next book I read was Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. It has taken me forever to finally get into this one because I heard mixed reviews. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Ultimately, it was definitely longer than it needed to be. Her editor should have done a much better job of pulling out some scenes that were just unnecessary to the story. But at the end of the day, it is still a highly entertaining fantasy book. Up next is Business Casual by B.K. Borison. This is the 4th book in her Inglewild series that starts with Lovelight Farms. And I gave this 4 stars because it was just bittersweet to read it, knowing that this was going to be the last book in the series. I was sad that I knew we wouldn't be returning to these characters again, but I did really enjoy Charlie and Nova's story and how they both managed to bring out the best in each other and find their true home in each other. Up next was an older book that I've been meaning to read for a while, which is The Women in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. I only gave this 3.5 stars. I think, again, I had hyped it up too much in my mind based on how many good reviews there have been over the past however many years. I was also listening to the audiobook and I felt like the characters got muddled together a bit too much and it was hard to keep track of who was who. The last 10% was definitely thrilling and exciting and I was, turning pages quickly, but it didn't really make up for the first 90%. Then we've got A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. This is her new one for 2024. This basically sounded like every book lover's dream because our main character gets the chance to live in real life inside the town from one of her favorite romance series. Again, this is another one where the concept outlived the actual writing. It was fine. I gave it 3.5 stars, but it just didn't quite live up to my expectations for it. The next romance I read was The Au Pair Affair by Tessa Bailey, and this was a 5-star romance. It's the second of her sports romances that she's writing, the first being Fangirl Down. And in The Au Pair Affair, we get to follow 2 of the side characters from that first book, so you don't need to read them in order. It can definitely be read as a standalone, but it was fun to get to see these 2 characters again. And it's got a hockey player this time who's kind of a stoic, older man getting aged out of his sport, and he needs a nanny for his young daughter. So Tallulah comes and helps out the family. This had so much tension between the 2 because you've obviously got an employer-employee relationship as well as an age gap. So I just adored this one. There was so much good banter and tension, and it was just one of her phenomenal romances. And my last 2 books were both 2 5-star thrillers, so I definitely ended the month on a great note. First up was Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. This is another older book that I finally got around to reading, and I'm so glad I did. Everything about this book just kept me hooked from start to finish. That crazy prologue, the alternating timelines, and the different characters telling their side of the story. It was just phenomenally well written and done in a way that just made you want to keep finding out what happened. It basically centers around a woman who goes missing in town, followed by a mother and her daughter way back a decade ago, and you're finding out what happened back then versus what is going on now after the daughter has recently been found. And the last book I read is a new release by Sherry LaPena, which is What Have You Done? This is a small town murder mystery, and it again was writing at its finest. A teenage girl is found murdered in one of the local farmers' fields, and it sets off this investigation that makes everyone wonder who actually did it in this small town. I love the way that different characters told different parts of the story, and their secrets were slowly unraveled throughout the whole thing. So it wasn't like we were building up to some huge twist at the end. It felt like there were little tidbits that were dropped to us as we got along, so it made it a really fun read the whole way through. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these or what your favorite book of July was.